Hello, everyone. Welcome if you are just joining us. We know we have more attendees who are continuing to join for our wonderful program today. We will get started with the official program at about 5 minutes after, as all of our attendees are coming into the waiting room and then joining us. We have a great program for you today. So hang tight for just about 3 more minutes, maybe get that last cup of water. And we will be recording this program for those of you who are just arriving. So I am absolutely convinced, based on the preparation, that this will be a really valuable, important program that you may want to share with others once we're done. And we will be posting it on our YouTube channel, also on our website. So again, welcome if you are just joining. I'm seeing attendees continuing to arrive. If you're just come into this webinar, we'll get started at 5 minutes after. And as everyone's arriving, I'll also let you know for this webinar, if you have questions, you can place them in the Q&A. Our panelists will try to answer them as they're able. We will also have some time, a little bit of time at the end of the program for questions to be asked as well live from the Q&A. Once again, welcome everyone as more are coming into this program. So wonderful to have you here on a Monday morning with a really important, valuable topic. Some great speakers and presenters. I can't wait to hear them. We will get started in just about a minute. So hang tight, get comfortable. And hopefully if you're attending in Arizona, you're in a nice cool place. Some record temperatures here in the Valley area today. Or maybe it's just summer's finally started officially. All right, and speaking of official, it is officially 11:05, and that is the time that we are going to officially get this program going. I know some more folks will probably keep arriving, but we have a really full slate of amazing presenters today, so we want to give them as much time as possible. My name is Tara Jackson. I have the honor of serving as president of the Arizona Town Hall. If you are not familiar with our organization, we are homegrown from Arizona since 1962. We are a nonprofit organization. We take on lots of topics throughout the years and even within each year. But we are really about educating, engaging, connecting Arizonans, and most importantly, empowering all who attend our programs to be a part of the solutions moving forward. So we hope we will accomplish all of those things with you today with this amazing program we have. Our program today is part of our Cross-Border Connecting series. This started in 2020 during the pandemic when we had to go virtual for a lot of our programs. It is an outgrowth of our Arizona-Mexico programming that has now become our international relations program. We now do programs with countries from around the world, whether it is sharing our process and facilitating discussions with delegations from Asia, from South America, from Europe, from the Netherlands. It's a really important part of the work we do in sharing this incredible process the Arizona Town Hall has come up with over the years. Our Cross-Border Connecting program is really part of the International Relations Committee, and it is part of strengthening, engaging, and understanding our region, if you will, both Arizona and Mexico and beyond. We are very blessed to have an amazing chair of this program, of our International Relations Committee, and of this program. She has spearheaded it. She is the lifeblood of it. Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson, who retired from an incredible career in higher education, but like so many wonderful Arizona leaders, failed retirement and continues to give back in so many ways, not only in chairing this committee, but in bringing wonderful slate of speakers on different topics. Before I turn it over to her, I want to give a shout out to our financial sponsors. We are a nonprofit. All sponsorships make a difference to us, including individual contributions. For this particular program, the Nelson Family Charitable Fund helps financially support our cross-border connecting series. This year, our cross-border connecting series is a part of or addressing the same topics that we are doing throughout the year in Arizona on building Arizona's workforce. And for that reason, I want to give a special shout out to a major funder we have for all of our workforce topics this year, the Thomas R. Brown Foundations. We couldn't do it without all of their support. So with that, I'm now going to turn this program over to the wonderful Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson. Linda, take it away.
Thank you, Tara. And thank you to those who have signed up for this very important forum. Quality childcare has always been an important topic, but since the pandemic, it has taken on greater urgency, in particular with its links to workforce development. We have 4 wonderful panelists today that are going to give us the overview of quality childcare and workforce development, and in particular through the lens of rural Arizona, to see how this impacts rural Arizona. I will be introducing each panelist in turn as they speak. And again, if you wish to make any questions, please click on the Q&A icon that you'll be able to send in your question, and one of our panelists could address it in writing. We will have some time at the end of this forum for questions that could be addressed to the panelists. Our first panelist is Amber Shek, who is the Chief Operations Officer of the Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation. Amber is the Chief Operating Officer with 8 years of experience in economic development, data analysis, and regional strategy. Since relocating to Yuma in 2016 following her husband's assignment to the Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, Amber has played a pivotal role in advancing local economic initiatives and fostering public-private partnerships that drive sustainable growth in the region. With a strong foundation in historical research and community engagement, Amber combines her academic background with hands-on economic planning expertise. She serves on the executive committee of the Yuma Crossing National Heritage Area Board and was named a 20 Under 40 awardee twice for her leadership and impact. Amber is passionate about preserving Yuma's cultural heritage while cultivating forward-thinking solutions for economic resilience. Please welcome Amber Shek.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here speaking with you today. I'm gonna share my screen. Ooh. Okay. So yes, I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation. Just a little bit about GYEDC. We are a not-for-profit organization. Our mission is to expand economic activity within Yuma County by attracting commerce and industry to the region, and by assisting in developing the region's existing industry to its fullest potential. We do this through many different initiatives, including supporting workforce development and talent pipelines, and building partnerships across public and private sectors. And that's how I ended up in this conversation with you today. So why this matters, why childcare matters to the economy. In Yuma County, more than 12,000 children under the age of 6 lack access to licensed childcare. That's 2 out of every 3 young children without a formal place to learn and grow while their parents work. This gap isn't just inconvenient, it is a crisis. It forces families to make impossible decisions, choosing between a paycheck and staying at home, and between advancing their careers and caring for their kids. Across Arizona, the impact is staggering. We lose an estimated $1.7 billion every year due to childcare related disruptions. This includes missed workdays, reduced productivity, and higher employee turnover. And right here in Yuma, the story is no different. More than 60% of working parents say the lack of childcare is one of the biggest reasons they can't return to full-time employment or move up in their careers. When we look at the economic toll, it's clear. Our local childcare shortage could be costing us $46 to $70 million every single year. That's lost wages, lost productivity for businesses, and lost tax revenue that could be reinvested in our schools, roads, and services. If we want to build a resilient economy, we have to treat childcare like the essential infrastructure that it is. Just like we invest in highways, broadband, and power grids, we must invest in a childcare system that supports our working families. Because when families are strong, communities are strong, and our economy thrives. So a little bit about our task force. These economic impacts is why GYEDC launched the Greater Yuma Child Care Task Force. Local employers realize the lack of affordable, quality childcare options is impacting their workforce, especially when it comes to second and third shifts. Many of our employers operate outside of regular business hours. So the task force began towards the end of 2022. And coincidentally, that was also when I became a mom for the first time. But the task force has grown exponentially ever since. What started as a conversation with a handful of stakeholders has become a dynamic cross-sector coalition. This includes early childhood experts like First Things First, which you'll hear from later on, workforce and business development partners like the Arizona Western College Small Business Development Center and Arizona at Work. So the SBDC actually has many clients who are childcare providers who are looking to grow and expand their operations. So we get to engage with them directly and get feedback from them. We also have community serving organizations such as Comité de Bienestar and Chicanos por la Causa. We're also proud to engage higher education partners, K through 12 leaders, health systems, and government agencies. We do have someone from DES and even a representative who joins when we can from the governor's office. I have met with other groups with similar goals outside of our region to see what they're doing in their communities to grow childcare opportunities. I have noticed that people are very open to the discussion. They're not gatekeeping any information or solutions, but they're happy to share those experiences and even collaborate with us. So our vision is to build a connected, high-quality early childhood ecosystem, one that makes childcare accessible, culturally responsive, and supportive of our binational workforce. The task force is working hard to, one, expand childcare access and capacity across the region, foster collaboration between sectors, improve provider support, pay and retention, and leverage shared regional assets. We're working to increase the number of licensed childcare slots. This includes supporting new providers and helping existing ones grow. So the workforce development, like I talked a little bit about earlier, a community's workforce plays a critical role in economic development. It's both a driver of growth and a determining factor in a region's ability to attract and retain businesses. A region with a ready, well-trained workforce is more attractive in attracting it in getting more industries like advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and ag tech. Higher workforce participation means more income in local households, driving consumer spending, housing markets, and tax revenue. Childcare access, health, transportation, and housing all impact whether people can fully participate in the workforce. When parents can rely on safe, affordable, and accessible childcare, they're able to pursue full-time employment, enroll in job training programs, and take on new opportunities for advancement. So we're also building a pipeline for early childhood educators, one of the fastest growing fields in the country. So just for one striking fact, for every 10 childcare slots created, about 5 parents are able to return to work. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what we've done so far as the task force together as a group. We've done a lot, but it also feels like we're just getting started too. One of the most important things we've done is raise awareness and build partnerships across the region. But one of the first things we did was create a survey for employers to circulate among their employees because we wanted to hear directly from the source. The survey aimed to better understand local childcare needs, focusing on availability, affordability, and preferences from working families, especially those impacted by shift works. It was made available in English and Spanish, and we also made it available online, like through a QR code, or they were able to have access to a digital printed copy for them to fill out. So respondents represented a wide range of occupations across different industries. We learned there is a clear demand for extended hour childcare, which is a major gap in the current system. Affordability remains a major barrier, with many families unable to recover market rate care without assistance. Additionally, comments on preferred facility types reflect a desire for more flexible, culturally relevant care options, including home-based or bilingual programs. These findings highlight the need for deeper community engagement, expanded provider support, and public-private partnerships that align care offerings with local workforce realities. We held a provider resource forum to connect childcare providers with essential resources. We did this last year. It was hosted by Arizona at Work and the SBDC. The goal was to help existing providers stabilize and grow. It also served as a platform for peer connection and community building, ensuring that providers feel seen, supported, and including regional solutions. I myself was on maternity leave with my second baby when it happened, but there was a really good turnout, and it's something we're looking to replicate. Like I said, we've also connected with communities outside of our region to learn from others and share ideas, because we're not alone in this. This is impacting everywhere, everyone. But most recently, we just started working on an early childhood education fiscal mapping project in partnership with Read On Arizona and First Things First. Arizona's early childhood fiscal map, created by Read On Arizona and the Children's Funding Project, is a powerful public finance tool that tracks how much is spent and by whom on early childhood services across the state. This map answers three fundamental questions: who is funding early childhood, how much is being invested and when it happened, and what are the dollars going towards, i.e. childcare, preschool, health services. The map shows funding distribution across age bands, prenatal to age 5, and services, which reveals gaps and opportunities for more equitable allocation. So now we're working on to have a specific one for Yuma County, which will help us identify local resource challenges and where new funding must be directed, and hopefully a way to advocate for more spending at the state level. So that is what I have for you today. I want to thank you for listening and being here today to engage in this important conversation. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a 3-year-old and an almost 18-month-old, so this has been a personal connection for me as well, navigating a full-time career and 2 very little ones. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber, for this important information. Our following speaker is Lisa Blyth, MA LPC, who is the Regional Director for First Things First in the Yavapai region, where she leads the work of an 11-member volunteer council focused on strengthening the early childhood system and expanding programs that enhance early health, development, and family support. With over 25 years of experience in behavioral health, child development, and program management, Lisa brings a collaborative approach to systems coordination and community engagement. Her professional background spans roles as a therapist, parent educator, grant writer, and administrator in both nonprofit and private agency settings. Her work today is guided by principles of systems thinking and cross-section collaboration. She recently convened a regional business forum to explore childcare as a workforce issue, engaging employers in local solutions to childcare access. Lisa also serves on multiple local and state level advisory groups focused on child welfare, early learning, and family support. She is dedicated to improving the systems that families with young children rely on, ensuring those systems are connected, responsive, and built to support long-term community well-being. Please welcome Lisa Blyth.
Thanks, Linda. Let's see if we can get all the technology pieces to work. All right, thank you. Good morning. Happy to join you from northern Arizona, so in Yavapai County, a little bit cooler up here. I'm gonna jump right in. And before I get started, I'm gonna really sort of paint a pretty substantial picture of what it looks like in Yavapai and how we even begin to address challenges. And because it really helps to start with a sense of place. Yavapai County is really big. And it's split right down the middle by a mountain. And so that geography combined with how spread out the communities are plays a really significant role in shaping what solutions are possible to issues like the childcare crisis and families accessing resources and other supports that they may need, and where the pressure points show up in looking for those solutions. So when we talk about Yavapai County, it's important to recognize that we're talking about two pretty distinct regions divided by Mingus Mountain, and the locals will often refer to the other side of the mountain, both of us, all of us on the other side of the mountain. And when we're speaking that way, we're not just talking about the geography. So on the west side, which is mostly referred to as the Quad Cities, you have Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, and the unincorporated towns of Dewey and Humboldt and the surrounding areas. It's pretty densely populated. It's growing very quickly. And the economy leans towards healthcare, education, retail, and construction. And it's fairly politically conservative and rooted in traditional Western identities. So sort of think historic downtowns, strong veteran community, and lots of civic pride. And then on the east side of the county, referred to as the Verde Valley, and even further distinguished as the upper and lower Verde by those who live there. There's Cottonwood, Clarkdale, Jerome, Camp Verde, Cornville, Sedona, and these are smaller, more spread out communities, and the economy is more tourism and agriculture driven, especially with we have pretty significant wine industry and ecotourism over there. So it's mixed culturally. And so these cultural and economic differences shape how people think about childcare, family resources, recreational activities, developing businesses, how they prioritize services, and what kinds of partnerships are possible. And then let's add in the limited public transportation and consistent broadband and rural funding models that don't always meet the need. And you can see why a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't really work here. And so we spend a lot of time in the individual communities identifying first what's going to potentially fit and where certain messaging and approaches to things will land the best. So that doesn't even touch on, we have some really unique, further remote communities like Ash Fork and Bad Dad and Yarnell, and you can add even a few more layers to the challenges out there. So with all of that in mind, it probably doesn't surprise you to hear that the access to childcare varies widely across the county. So when we look at the numbers, the scale of the gap becomes even clearer. Let's take a look at what it actually looks in Yavapai. So demand exceeds the supply, and families can't afford to pay more. And infant care costs more than a year of college tuition. And I couldn't find specific data about the hourly wage in Yavapai, just notes that said you can refer to the average wage as a good marker. And I think the more interesting comparison here is the living wage for a single adult with one kid in Yavapai County is estimated at $31 an hour. So even using that state average, we're looking at nearly half for of the wage. And that's a pretty hefty wage, not typical of everybody who's living and working here. So if we parse that out a little bit differently, you can see the scope of the challenge in some of these other numbers. So this is the broader picture of what families are looking at, how many children need care, and how many slots are available. So 44%, we have 6,400 kids living in homes where parents work, and only about 3,600 available childcare slots. Oops. And then we can zoom in a little bit closer, specifically to the Quad Cities, West Yavapai. And this is part of what led to the business forum that we pulled together here in West Yavapai. So you get a little more specific view about the gaps. This was a study that Yavapai College did, really specifically for our first responders and educators, really looking at the needs of the critical infrastructure employees and the degree of opportunities they promoted. And so we're finding the average childcare cost right around $12,000, and more than 20% have wait lists here in the Quad Cities. That holds true across the entire region. Also not unusual across the entire region. One provider in this particular area just offers extended hours, and it supports several local employees and employers across the Quad Cities. So here's the story. Whoops. So before I take us into what's working and happening in Yavapai, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what's happening at the state level. I know Amber shared some of that, and you'll hear more in the other presentations, which I think really drives home the point of how deeply childcare is tied into the economic health statewide. So Arizona loses nearly $5 billion a year due to childcare disruptions. That seems like that's sort of a mic drop, enough said right there, but we can pull it apart even further and have more conversation about this. So the Council for Strong America did an analysis of how it affects Arizona. Families' income is affected by lost earning and job search expenses. The employer's bottom lines are affected by absences and turnover, and the state is losing a lot, millions in tax revenue. So to kind of further push this truth that childcare is directly tied to economic strength, it isn't just about childcare where kids have a roof and food for the day. It's really about quality childcare. And this has been used a lot, this language and this data point. And so I'm hoping it's become really familiar and part of the vernacular for people. Nobel Prize winning economist James Heckman found that for every dollar we invest in early childhood, we can get up to $16 in return. And the reason that the quality piece that drives it home, besides sort of the immediate need of if families have care, then they can go to work, it's when we are supporting quality childcare, that what I hope most of us know by now is that the ripple effects are that kids who start strong are more likely to graduate from high school and pursue college or career training, and they go on to earn more and live healthier lives. And on the flip side, we see reductions in things like the need for special education, reliance on public assistance, and even involvement in the criminal justice system. So it's a win for families and taxpayers. Oops. Oh, I jumped way ahead. I apologize. Oh. Apologies for the technical. Ooh, we had a conversation about this before we started. So in the past year, meaning this fiscal year that's about to end in 3 weeks, we're at June 16. So in this fiscal year, the governor and state legislature invested $12 million in child care assistance, and it's the first investment of its kind since 2008. when the state cut about $84 million in annual funding. So super meaningful step, but a drop in the bucket, and it was only one-time funding. And the state legislature and the governor are currently working on the budget for state fiscal year 26. And the governor's Bright Futures Arizona plan includes over 191 million in proposed investments, and it covers all kinds of things like cost sharing childcare programs, workforce support, and out of school time grants. And then First Things First also had championed House Bill 2778, bipartisan bill, and it would have redirected about 50 to 80 million annually back into early childhood by taxing vaping and alternative nicotine products. And keep an eye out, because we're going to keep moving that forward and be on the docket again next year as well. So things are still really in flux, and my notes actually say that we had 2,000 children on the childcare wait list that just recently reopened. Literally got an email at 10:30 this morning asking for advocacy and contacting our representatives, because the wait list is actually up to 5,000 kids. So we don't know what the final outcome is going to be. And this is exactly why it's so important the businesses participate in this conversation, because they get it, they understand, and they see the effects firsthand. So with all of this information and a super clear vision that childcare is a significant economic development lever, it became really obvious that the real progress here in the region and across the state requires businesses to pull up a chair and join the conversation. So apologies for the fuzzy slide there. This is my reference, because this childcare forum that we had and the task force that came out as a result, super new. We brought up some business leaders together, super selective about who attended, because we really wanted to create a vision and an expectation with our business partners that they bring something else to the table than those of us who have been working in it for years and really understand the depth and the need for this. And so we heard there were some local experts, we got updates, what's happening at the state level, we had some group conversations. And what really came out of it, the big takeaway was we need some sort of task force to keep the conversation going. And so we've only met twice. So this is super new. So I don't have tons of slides to tell you about all the amazing things we're doing. But I took a lot of notes from what Amber was sharing, and we'll be picking her brain for moving us forward. The bottom line goal is to make things easier for businesses to get involved in this issue. So we kind of refer to it as the trifecta of barriers up here. When a business that is not in the business of providing childcare considers participating in some of the solution, it's about actual brick and mortar space, it's about the funding of it, and then it's about the staffing and staffing oversight. And so the goal for the task force is to help the businesses take action in ways that feel doable and not overwhelming. And so while we're pretty clear on the long-term goal, we're working across industries in sort of new and unique ways. And so we're still learning each other's sort of industry cultures and practices and priorities and language and strategies for moving forward. So that's happening in tandem with eye on the prize, where are we going to get to, and making sure we really want to be clear that we are working together very specifically with intention. So things we're looking forward to. One of the pieces that was important to share at the forum was you're not in this alone. So when we come to a business and it feels sort of overwhelming to consider, there are lots of things happening across the state from a statewide approach, and also from local communities, as you're hearing about today. And so one thing that slid in very recently was that Local First Arizona, through their Northern Arizona Good Jobs Network, issued a grant for an initiative that supports childcare providers by funding services that improve quality, expand capacity, and help providers move toward regulated care. And we had, thankfully, speedy response by one of the partners here in Yavapai, and we feel really good about their application and the prospects that this will potentially bring to the region. And then additionally, from the statewide level, I'm giving a plug for EPIC, which is the Executives Partnering to Invest in Children. And so they specifically work with businesses to help them understand and tackle the childcare needs of their workforce. And they have all these supports and technical supports to help businesses do this. So they're launching the Arizona Employer-Based Childcare Design Lab. They're going to offer workshops and help businesses create childcare solutions that work. And it fits right into what we're doing in Yavapai and what communities around the state are doing. And it fits into the state's bigger picture, like the Bright Futures Arizona plan. And so I sort of illustrate all of these pieces to indicate there's a lot of moving parts, and it is all connected, and it's all moving to the same end. So if anyone has been hesitant about popping into this work and sort of approaching it or looking at it in ways that they haven't before, they're not in this alone. There's a lot of movement going. So if you're interested, so here's my only commercial part, then is you can apply if you apply by June 20, and if I may be speaking a tiny bit out of turn here, if that due date, because what is that, in 4 days, is overwhelming, the actual design lab doesn't start until August. So I highly recommend that your business or any other business partners that you know of take a look at it and figure out how this could be really helpful to moving this conversation and this work forward. And I think that might, yeah. So takes me to the end of my piece. I really appreciate your time. At the end of the day, childcare is about keeping our local economy running. So we've got momentum and we've got partners and we got ideas, and we just need more folks willing to roll up their sleeves and be part of the solution and the conversation. I'll turn it back to you, Linda. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. That was very insightful. Our next speaker is Andrea Helart, who is the president and CEO of the Lake Havasu Area Chamber of Commerce and a recent Business Leads Fellow with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. She has served for 2 years in her role as a chamber executive, serving for over 21 years as a teacher and school administrator. She is also the owner of Ulu Consulting, a consulting company and chamber member that provides consulting on leadership skills, mentoring, and goal setting for both personal and professional clients. In her role at the Chamber, she currently works to support the Lake Havasu Area Chamber of Commerce and its foundation to work in tandem with the local partners, expanding an industry-based benefit supports, business and community advocacy, workforce development, and education initiatives for the community. Some of her most important roles recently at the Chamber have included facilitation and advocacy for her community's childcare task force, recent partnerships with the U.S. Chamber to bring the National Civics Fee to her community, and expansion of their Chamber Foundation's career exploration internship programs. Andrea has served several roles in her life as a wife, mother, chamber professional, educational leader, community leader, and wellness advocate. She holds a bachelor's degree and master's degree in educational leadership, as well as an administrative certificate from Northern Arizona University. She considers herself a lifelong learner and a person who thrives on helping others grow. Please welcome Andrea Helart.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay. So I know all of you can't see my face. I'm having a little bit of camera issues, but as long as you can hear me, we are all good to go. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to come and speak today. You heard in my bio, my background is an educator. I currently work as the Chamber CEO here in Lake Havasu City. And for those of you who don't know a whole lot about Lake Havasu, we are a rural and hospitality-driven community. We have a lot of different industries we serve here, and quality childcare is a direct impact to our workforce. So I'm lucky enough also to serve on the First Things First Regional Council as a board member. So that is one of the roles that I think has brought me the most forward into this conversation. We were lucky enough to have First Things First start this conversation back in May. And so some of the data that you're going to be looking at is some of the local data that First Things First was able to bring to the table on behalf of Lake Havasu. And then I'm going to be kind of sharing a little bit of where we're at with our task force development as well. So as everybody's been stating, you know, childcare has a direct impact to our community, both in the families that are raising their children, but also to, you know, support the workplace. We have a local need here in Lake Havasu, not just to serve the businesses, but also to ensure that we're supporting the local childcare facilities, because as you guys know, it is quite a cycle. So quality early learning, we're talking about the impact that it has. We know, I know as a former educator and continuing educator that kindergarten matters, or early learning matters, and being able to provide a safe and accessible childcare for our local families is a direct impact to how well kids do in school. So you can kind of see here the different ways that it impacts children over their lifetime. Quality childcare supports skills, problem solving, communication, social interaction. And I can tell you that we definitely see it in schools when children are coming into our schools without any prior preschool or childcare facility support. A lot of local families, some have the capability of supporting student learning, but others do not. And so being able to provide them with quality care at those early stages is really essential. So we're talking about working families. Working families in Lake Havasu, 64% of young children living in Mojave County households where all adults work. So this is not just, you know, fathers going to work. We live in a whole new generation where it's a dual family income, but that also means that there's no families staying home with their children anymore, or a much smaller amount of students at home. And there are approximately 900 slots that are still needed for childcare in their community. So Lake Havasu City has approximately 1,000 children in households where all adults work and have no access to childcare. That could be for a various number of reasons. It could be that the slots are not available. It could be that there is no capability for that particular household to be able to afford the access. It could also mean that the childcare has slots available, but they don't have the staff to afford that. So that's kind of the conversations we've been bringing into the task force. As you've been hearing, the demand is definitely exceeding the supply. And we know that it's very difficult to keep employees in childcare facilities when the pay is not up to snuff. And for those of you who do not live in Lake Havasu, the cost of living in Lake Havasu has definitely risen over the last few years. So being able to meet the needs of people who are living here is a much higher concern at this point, because minimum wage is no longer cutting it. And again, families can only afford so much for their childcare, and for families that have multiple children, those costs get higher and higher every year. So childcare crisis, the impact on working families. Per this report, 90% report that childcare costs have increased. 73% report childcare options have decreased. So the costs are going up, the options are going down, and several people are reporting that they've left a job. And that's not, this is a report that was given to us, but we're learning the same thing from our business community. Our task force has put out surveys since we created the task force a year ago, and all of the data is matching. So kind of moving into that conversation about our local task force. As I mentioned, First Things First is the one who launched the conversation back in May of last year. And the Chamber of Commerce, our role is really to support our business community and economic prosperity of our workforce. We also have a Chamber Foundation that supports education and workforce development. So this is really what's in our wheelhouse in terms of, you know, creating opportunities for strategic supports. And so I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to help facilitate that. or help facilitate the conversation. So currently the people that are involved in the conversation, we have our local city partners. So several people from Lake Havasu City have joined us in this. We've invited our local K-12 partners. And so that is not just our local school district, but our local charter and private schools as well. We have people from our business community that are coming into the conversation, which has been absolutely essential because as we know, this is directly impacting our business community. And really, unless we get our business partners involved, there's no way to solve it without them. We are involving our local childcare facilities as well. One of the challenges we've come up with is that it is much more difficult for us to be able to get the childcare managing partners or providers to attend some of the task force meetings. We're having smaller group conversations and things like that. We are also involving our higher education partners because being able to fill those talent pipelines has been really essential. And our local Mojave College, it's Mojave Community College currently, but it will be Mojave College moving forward. So they are also creating additional opportunities for early learning certificates. So we're really excited for that. And that's kind of going to be one of the things that helps us push forward with some of those talent pipeline strategies that we want to use. And then, of course, our local resource partners. So kind of moving into that task force conversation, when we brought the task force to the table, we wanted to make it really specific and strategic. So we moved through 4 different phases of the planning process with this. Initially, just identifying a game plan, trying to make sure that there was specific purpose and identifying our priorities. And then again, moving into bringing awareness to the community, agreeing on what the big picture of our priorities were going to be, and then connecting the dots. So we decided to go ahead and identify our guiding principles, and that happened in about September of last year. The priorities that we wanted to build were supporting access to high quality childcare, because we know that childcare exists, but there's a lot of providers that are out there that don't have the appropriate supports or training needed, especially when they're hosting multiple children. And so we want to be able to keep supporting the access to high quality childcare. And we wanted to integrate local resources. So again, bringing all of those different partnerships to the table to make sure that we're providing access to childcare in multiple ways. And then again, the third one, solutions to increase access to childcare, whether that be additional slots at those facilities, whether that be additional childcare, an additional childcare facility. We wanted to bring those solutions to the table. And that includes business solutions. So family-friendly policies into businesses is one of the things that the Chamber specifically is doing to help support that access. We also wanted a representation of diverse stakeholders. We know that bringing the same 5 people to the table is not going to solve the issue. So we wanted to make sure that we were bringing multiple people to the table to bring different perspectives. And then again, prioritizing achievable action. We need to make sure that we're doing specific things to move forward, because the conversation only gets us so far. We have to be able to move forward with action. So first things first, was able to bring some data back to I believe it was our 2nd or 3rd meeting. And they were able to bring in our regional needs and assets reports. And just breaking that down, one of the things that they wanted to make clear for that childcare task force was the analysis by the Bipartisan Policy Center, which indicated that Arizona specifically needs an additional 76,740 licensed or registered early care education slots to have enough for all children and working families. And that was back in 2019. We know that has not gone down. As a matter of fact, it has gone up very significantly. And there are more than 6 times the number of 1-year-olds in the region as there are available slots. And considering the costs, in 2022, sending an infant to a licensed child care center is approximately 17% of a family's income. Now, we know that that's not doable for most families, especially living in a higher cost community, specifically like Lake Havasu. So with rising costs of facilities, both in-home and licensed facilities, the need for licensed facilities is steadily increasing. So once we got through all of our identifying all of our priorities and kind of developing our big picture, we decided to move into 4 separate areas of solutions. So we wanted to work on childcare support systems. We wanted to work on building community partnership opportunities, working on employer-based initiatives, and then additionally finding funding opportunities, whether that be grant funding, business sponsorships, or any type of funding opportunities that we could look into. We also decided to do a survey for our local business community. I mentioned that the local data is definitely matching the regional data. So we did go ahead and do a survey for our local employees or employers, and it says, have you or your employees ever had to reduce work hours? 84.1% replied yes. And so we know that this is impacting local employers and local employees. The other questions we asked were, does your organization currently offer childcare support, or does your organization currently offer childcare benefits to assist and retain attracting talent? The answer was a resounding no, they didn't. So what that told us is that we have a really large opportunity to help go back to employers and help really push for, again, those family-friendly policies, whether that be incentives for employers, whether that be I see a note in the chat that just says, is it possible to get a copy of the slides? Absolutely. We absolutely can get you copies of the slides. So that's no problem at all. But what this again told us was that we have a lot of work to do in terms of educating our local employers on ways that they can help support their families, providing childcare stipends as part of their workplace benefits. We're also, as a chamber, working to help support family-friendly policies and childcare policies. That's part of our legislative agenda. And I was definitely, hold on one second. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Business Leads Fellowship Masterclass this year, where we've had an opportunity to really connect with a lot of other chambers around the nation and sort of share different opportunities and strategies that they're using in other areas. And so we're bringing a lot of these ideas back to the table, but kind of focusing on our priorities. These are the things that we have determined we need to start looking into solving. So again, availability and cost, according to our employers, is the biggest thing. Time availability for shift work this is not the same. This is not the first time that this has been brought up in the call. In Lake Havasu City, we do have a lot of shift workers here, both in hospitality industries and medical industries as well, and city jobs. And so that is a really large task for us currently, is to try to figure out how to work with our local childcare facilities that exist to see if there is availability to move forward with some shift work coverage, or whether or not that's going to take us looking into additional facilities to be created. And so right now, where we're at in our task force is we are at phase 4, where we're definitely connecting the dots. We've prioritized our needs. We have assessed our community infrastructure. Locally here, we have technically enough childcare slots from just the city and the hospital to fill a facility. And so that tells us that that we do need additional or childcare slots, but we're trying to fill those with local providers first, and then move forward with identifying whether or not there are any opportunities for us to build on into another facility maybe in the next 5 years. So we are identifying those necessary partnerships here locally, and we're establishing some of the cost of what that could look like. And then we're building our overall plan. I mentioned all of our priorities. So here's kind of what we're working on moving into 25 and 26. So we're really highly engaging in professional development. Thankfully, first things first, here regionally, we have a great supports in place. And again, first things first is taking the lead on this along with Mojave Community College. We're doing targeted trainings for early childhood education. And so some of these sessions will address specific skills and knowledge areas. We want to focus on various different things that we know are needed within our childcare facilities and our childcare providers. And then we're looking at potentially combining with home visitation for early childhood providers. And so again, first things first is doing a really good job with that. And we're grateful that Mojave Community College is helping us partner there as well. And then we're also focused on retention and career advancement. So the goal here is to really connect with our local school district and our local education partners and Arizona at Work. We know that there are a lot of opportunities for internships locally. So when we know that it's really difficult to find people for those jobs in childcare facilities where we can find dedicated and really child-centric workers, we know that we can go back to some of our K-12 programs, such as Lake Havasu Unified School District has a really strong CTE program. And so being able to connect with their early childhood center there and some of those students that are really already on that pipeline to becoming an educator, and being able to work with Arizona at Work to facilitate partnerships and employment opportunities at our local child care facilities, and then helping again support them at our local colleges to get the classes they need for those ECE credits, and then potentially onto additional credits again for their degrees. And so we're really that's where we're starting. We're also looking at potentially exploring some community-funded child care scholarships. And so first things first, we'll be working with us to help determine how we can move forward with those. And then we're also looking at the child care dependent and tax credit initiatives that are on the ballot right now, and really helping push those and write our local legislators and push for those policies to be approved. And then again, on the chamber side of things, we're really working on educating our business community. And so those are family-friendly business practices and business care policies that are coming up. One of the things that I've learned moving into this role instead of education is that our business community doesn't always know what it doesn't know. And so we need to educate them on the things that are impacting the workforce in ways that they're not aware of. And so we're excited to move forward as partners in that. So that's kind of where we're at with our child care task force. I'm happy to share these slides with your facilitators, and just really excited for all the partnerships that are taking place because of this work. So thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you, Andrea. Very serious information. We have our final presenter, who is Rudy Ortiz. Rudy Ortiz has over 25 years of experience in education and early childhood leadership. Rudy has his master's in the art of teaching early childhood education and holds a credential in certified public management from Arizona State University. Once a preschool teacher, he was the first preschool teacher to receive the honor of Teacher of the Year for the entire San Diego Unified School District. He's currently the First Things First Yuma Regional Director, where he serves the First Things First Yuma Regional Partnership Council. The local 11 volunteers plan and execute an over $21 million budget, which strategically invests in local partners to support the healthy development and learning of the young children in the region. Rudy is also a proud adjunct faculty member at Arizona Western College. In 2020, Rudy was awarded the AWC Associate Faculty Teacher of the Year. Rudy serves on numerous state and local committees, including the Children's Museum of Yuma County and Western Arizona Council of Governments Head Start Advisory Council. He is passionately committed to supporting our local economy by enhancing and ensuring the early childhood system is a top priority in Yuma County. Please welcome Rudy Ortiz.
Well, thank you so much for that warm introduction, Linda. And I want to thank all the panel members that have brought some really great information, but I think you can kind of see a common theme. And I have the opportunity here before we get into questions and delivering some answers, though, to those questions, getting a little deeper into what it looks like in Yuma and actually really providing some clear examples of what solutions look like that might give you some nice opportunities to take home to your area. All right. So one of the things I want to kind of start with is when I first moved to Yuma, there was this big opportunity to really get more awareness around the importance of early childhood education. And one of those first, what I would say, partners that really came to the table is our Yuma mayor. And I kind of want to start with his quote down here, where he talks about that building strong families and are a vital component to building strong communities. And I think our early childhood childcare system is kind of at the foundation of how we build strong communities and strong families. I'm going to paint a picture right now here in Yuma. Close to 18,000 children that are under the age of 6, and close to a third of those children are living in poverty. You can see our live births from 2015 to 2020 almost match the number of children that we have in the region. But not only that, that doesn't count for how many children are actually moving to the region. When you look out here, Yuma County, at kind of the southwest area of our state, it really is kind of broken into 3 sub-regions. Many of us kind of just see it as Yuma. We're driving on the 8 freeway on our way to San Diego or back home to Phoenix or other parts of the state. You kind of just hit kind of what would be more of that northern part of our county, which is kind of central Yuma, where most of the population lives. A lot of our industry is there. When you look at South County, which is more our border region, you can look at the average population age anywhere between 26 and 28 years old. So Yuma is very much known as a retirement place with as many golf courses and many things to do. But that average age is going from the 50s down into the mid 30s, and in some sub-regions of our community, even into the mid to high 20s. So we have a lot of younger families that are calling Yuma home. When you look at the eastern part of our state, of our region, that is the more rural area of our region, where you see a lot of agriculture within that area, a lot of land there, and a lot of areas that are separated by grand miles in between them. So a lot of pockets that are in between. So kind of just want to show you that Yuma can be broken down into 3 distinct sub-regions. We have about close to 10,000 children that live in a household where the parents work. Here's the biggest thing, though, that we only have right under 5,600 available childcare license slots in our region. So you can already start to see that big gap that we have here in Yuma. And to really show and highlight that gap when you're talking about just workforce, 57% of our workforce has a childcare gap. 57% doesn't have a slot to support them to be able to work in our community. So I remember this of right after COVID, Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, and you heard from Amber, and their team gave us a call that when they called all of their investors, the big thing that came up was that our local employers were saying, we need improved childcare. And so you learned a little bit from Amber around the importance of the task force that has started. And this is kind of the beginning of our solution here. And it was really fun that First Things First did not have to take the lead on this, that it really was a business-driven, economy-driven organization, nonprofit that really wanted to lead this work. And so Amber did a wonderful, fantastic job of really building her capacity on the early childhood system, and wherever I could help, I could do that. And then she brought that business perspective, that economy perspective, and the two kind of married. And this is what I want to bring up. I think in the area of family services and in the area of childcare or family services, a lot of the term that we use is that we want to build collaborations. And that's great. That's amazing. But one thing that I want to talk about when we're talking about this childcare crisis that we have right now in our state and in our rural areas of Arizona, I want to bring up the word alliance. And that's something that has been really carried with my front lens as I work in the community, is I'm no longer trying to build collaborations. I'm in the work of building alliances. And you say, well, what's that key difference, Rudy? Well, collaborations, we have this kind of same goal that we're all trying to achieve. But an alliance takes it to a next level that, yes, we're all working towards that same goal, but we're okay with braiding our resources. True alliance is what is going to take at a federal level, national level, and local level to incorporate this innovative solution to our childcare crisis here in our state of Arizona. So we wanted to bring more awareness to the great work that Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation was doing with their task force. So last May, we had a panel of many local leaders and statewide leaders that came together. If it was our local community college, our local chamber, the one that has the microphone right here is a local pastor. You'll learn his story in a little bit. A local business leader, you'll hear about her in a little bit right here. And then kind of in the cream jacket, we have a council member and local banker as well. And then we have the CEO at the very end with the gray jacket of Greater Yuma. These individuals came together to share to our community around the importance of childcare, that double-edged sword that we're supporting the current workforce, but also developing the workforce of tomorrow, and then what it means of all that wonderful data that you already heard from the previous speakers of why this crisis is so important and why we need to put it as a priority in our state. This took place at O.C. Johnson Elementary School, which is in one of our more northern central areas of Yuma. It's a little bit of an older neighborhood that has generations that call that home, multiple generations. And there was a school called O.C. Johnson Elementary School that at the time that we started to work with them, they were a D-graded school. And that newer principal really wanted to work to see how we could get a preschool. She understood by putting a preschool that could maximize their effort to improve the outcomes for their students and for their community. She also wanted to create a family resource center and make that school a community school. And so First Things First really started to build an alliance with O.C. Johnson Elementary School. Fast forward from the initial work to about a year ago, you have a school now that is a B-level school. Their actually early childhood program has some of the highest literacy rates in the state, and Read On Arizona did a very unique and special article about them, which can be found on the Read On Arizona website. But what we wanted to show was that it works. And I think as we build opportunities in our community, you really have to highlight a model. And you have to highlight a model that kind of started from nothing to something that can act as a launch pad in your community. And that's what O.C. Johnson has been for us. It's been an opportunity to bring local data, local information, and to share the story of the importance of why this work is so important, but to actually see it in living color, be able to touch it, be able to see how it operates and how it works. And so we brought these leaders, and what we asked leaders to come together is that if you have opportunities that could be a solution to this, to help create more OC Johnson, the task force is there. And what a great vehicle that we have that you can be a part of. I wanted to kind of share with you another alliance that took place in our community, and that was with our local college. Our local college, community college, had their own lab school, but they had an empty classroom. And at the time, first things first, really didn't have many funds to open up that new classroom. And so I want to take a step back and say, well, how do we put existing partners together that have capacity and that have funds to do it? So long story short, the local school district, Yuma School District 1, created an alliance with the Learning Lab to have in that empty classroom, a full inclusion classroom that would take kids off the waiting list that were of special needs that needed to go into a preschool classroom. And then the waiting list from the Child Development Lab, they would then take and match that, and it would create a classroom with typical children with special needs. The teacher would come from the school district, and the aides would come from the actual college itself. The bus comes there, and it's just been an ultimate opportunity to also support our current workforce that wants to be educators, because now they have a lab school that has an inclusion model on the campus. So this was a really great opportunity before COVID hit to then take these two partners, and you'll hear this of where we just became Match.com. And bringing these two partners together to find a way that they could build an alliance and improve serving our community here in the region. I think when we talk about this, when it comes to a childcare crisis, you always hear about the business perspective, and that is great. And we want to expand the awareness to our business. But I think an audience that is really getting lost in this, and it really came from Church for the City here in Yuma, was that our faith leadership has the opportunity, and for many of them has the space to create childcare and preschools at their locations. And so we had some local council members and some local staff here in Yuma, first things first, that worked with the pastor here, Tyrone Jones, and created a preschool and had their own kind of committee that worked that together. And we'll be highlighting this brand new preschool on their campus at their church coming up in September or October. And one of the great things that great faith leader, Pastor Jones, wants to do is bring all of the faith leadership into kind of like this grand opening, ribbon cutting, and collaboration with the chamber to teach them, here's a role that we can have. This is how we use it. Once again, use us as a pilot, use our story. Here are lessons learned, that there's an opportunity to have more faith partners to come to the table that ultimately can be part of the solution of our childcare crisis. Another great partner that was a member, that is a member of the task force that Amber leads, is the Small Business Development Corp. And they came together and they do a really great job. You know, as first things first, we have quality first, and we're enhancing the overall quality of our preschools. But then there's the business side, right? Of how do I braid funding? How do I support my business so it can sustain, it can grow? And they've been a wonderful partner of helping individuals that want to open their own childcare out of their home, or even take a home provider that is looking for a location to actually create a center. And they have been a wonderful asset to this, of taking those that want to build, once again, their own home center, or supporting those that want to actually open from a home to a center. And there's been some great opportunities of building capacity on the business side, but also understanding the journey to get fully licensed, right? And so they've done a great job of building their capacity to be these key leaders that can help our local small businesses, which are our home providers and centers in rural areas. Then I want to bring it up to a local leader here, Shelly Mellon, who It's easier to say what she doesn't do in our region, but more importantly, understood that we needed a pilot, that we needed someone from the business world to step up to the plate and say, I will open my first childcare and really do it for those with the intentionality that work for my business and RL Jones Insurance. So she has just opened up Southwest Arizona Education Center on her own in the area of San Luis, which is our most southern community in the county of Yuma. And she's kind of this prime example of the business world standing up, understanding the data you just heard around how the lack of childcare is impacting local businesses and our economy, and has developed her own childcare primarily for her workforce, but then opened up to the community as well. So that's where I want to end here, is just really kind of sharing that we have the opportunity to move from collaboration to alliances. Those alliances don't only have to stick in our business world, they can stick in many other partners to come together to use resources, use staff, and use time to look at local solutions. But a lot of this, if I'm being very, very honest, is just scratching at the surface. And so we really need many champions out there to deliver this message at a federal and state level as well, to complete the whole circle of supporting our childcare crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy, and thanks to all of our panelists for your important information. We have a couple of minutes to take questions. If you would like to place any of your questions in the Q of A area, I will start with an initial question, which has to do with the aging of the workforce within the childcare sector. Would any of our panelists like to address the aging of the current childcare workforce and where we see some patterns of gaps needed that need to be addressed or anything? Any of our panelists that would like to deal with that, address that?
So,
Go ahead,
Lisa?
Lisa.
No, I was just gonna say, when you speak of age, you mean the age of those who are providing childcare and kind of what that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in Yavapai specifically, we do have some folks who are at the later end of working life continuum, but it's really more a much younger population, and it's people who also need childcare themselves, which creates its own issue. And so when we are looking at solutions, and the task force here is looking at solutions, it's things about how do we make it appealing to people who are coming into the workforce, and how do we do the pipeline from high school to college to working in the workforce. So we're focused more on, because of that's the need and that's who's showing up in the workforce at the younger end of the age continuum.
Thank you, Lisa. Andrea, did you want to address this question as well?
I was just looking at it from the workforce standpoint. That's one of the biggest concerns that we have here locally, is that most of the reason why our childcare providers don't have enough slots available is because they can't, there's so much turnover. And so they have people that are, again, aging out and retiring, or a workforce that's coming in that can't afford to make minimum wage at that type of a job. And so like really building on those workforce pipeline options has been a major priority for us locally. And that was just going to be the take that I was going to give on that.
Thank you, Andrea. Rudy, would you be able to address what childcare workers earn and what type of preparation they need?
Yeah, I can start with a quick personal story from there. You know, I have my degree to be an elementary teacher. And when I had the option to actually teach preschool, I didn't know that I was going to take a pay cut with the same degree. And that happens a lot of times. So I would say that turnover that's kind of talked about is that many times we lose our highly qualified staff once they get their degree to elementary schools because they pay more. And so that is one of the things that slaps us right across in the face. Here in Yuma, we're very lucky. Lisa, you talked about those high school programs. We have 2 high school programs that by the time they're seniors, they run their own childcare facility on the campus of the high school. They can earn their CDA, which would be the first step of getting that through our CTE program here in Yuma. I've seen our local Head Starts, which is another great partner to build an alliance with, is setting more of that requirement to get that BA, which NAA Yuma has been a huge partner of helping that. But many times when they get that BA, they're very close to then earning a lot of a higher pay due to moving to elementary. And I think what we've seen, I'll end here, Linda, is that the Red for Ed that took place in our state, the early childhood community was really not part of that. So then that gap has very much increased of what early childhood educators are making compared to elementary. And we saw that with the decrease in our preschool development grant, which the preschool development grant said if you had the same qualifications, you would get paid the same. But as that has decreased, there's less opportunities there for our workforce.
Thank you, Rudy. And the questions have started coming in. I'm not sure we'll have time to address them all, but we will start with the question that has to do with working with the high school pipeline, in particular in the CTE area. Rudy, I see you're nodding your head. So is that something you can address?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. So we have 2 local high schools that have that on their campus. You're going to need space. You're going to need those educators. And we've seen actually some of our previous Head Start educators who have taken over those CTE programs at San Luis High School and Gila Ridge High School here. So if you like some more information on that, please feel free to email me at rjortiz@firstthingsfirst.org so I can put you in contact with our CTE programs and what it took to build those in our community.
Thank you. Amber, did you want to address this as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention really quickly the childcare forum that I mentioned in my presentation. We actually invited some of the CTE students in that program to come. So they had transportation and they were able to chat with the other childcare providers in those resources as well.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with licensing requirements with ADHS. And the question is, should the licensing requirements be changed in any way? Is there anyone who would like to address that particular question? ADHS and licensing requirements.
I'll take
Lisa.
Sure. I don't know that it's so much that they need to be changed as much as we're looking that our childcare providers are looking for sort of this cross communication and sort of the right hand knowing what the left hand is doing, because ADHS is not the only regulating body for early childhood providers. DES has its requirements. Sites that are enrolled in Quality First has requirements, and this has been an ongoing project. And I would say that it's just the fact that this question is coming is continued feedback to the partners that are involved in all this to make sure that they are aligned well, and they are really working to make sure it's sort of one package of requirements, or that the cross requirement don't appear to be conflicting or add sort of additional stress to childcare sites trying to figure out how to get licensed and by whom to be regulated and which the best option is for them.
Thank you, Lisa. We have time for one more question because we have 1 more minute before we start wrapping up this program. So because a couple of questions came in that in particular focused on wages, how do we address wages for those in early childhood? And is there anyone who would like to address that from our panel? Rudy, I know that you talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can start. I have seen from within the world of child development and early childhood education, I have seen where your Head Start provider, your school districts are really those that really provide the higher wages for our community. When you get your degree, those are the places that you want to really work for. The opportunity that I do see is that the trouble for many of our private institutions is that they just can't pay that much, and so they lose. Many of those will be a teacher's aide or a teacher while they're working on their degree, and then they'll leave to a Head Start or a school district when that occurs. So a lot of times it starts as a kind of a launching pad for many of our workers. But I'll say this too. I'll end here. I have the opportunity to be a professor for our local college, and I've seen that as a professor, I get paid more than those that are working with 90% of the brain development are birth to 5-year-olds. And so there is the opportunity that we have to shift that culture, that way of thinking of the importance of the first 5 years and the wages that go around that, so we always get the highest quality of staff. So over the years, I've seen a commitment to that with our Head Start and our school districts of really trying to hire the most qualified and trying to find incentives. And I think it's up to us when we find those state or federal grants to support that, like the PDG grant, that if they have the same degree, they would get the same pay as their peers that are teaching in elementary school as well.
Thank you, Rudy. So I will turn the program back over to our president and CEO of Arizona Town Hall, Tara Jackson. Thank you, Tara.
Well, thanks again, Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson and all the panelists for an incredibly rich presentation with lots of information. Because there was a question about it, and I know many of you want to access those PowerPoints, we will have them on our website, and so you can access the information there. I thought it was just fascinating that first, all of the panelists together really kind of answered the question, why should we care? Not only because it's an incredible investment for the future, but it enriches our community. And when we're looking at economic development and workforce development, it is critical that we look at childcare. And I know I learned about a year ago or so as part of a consulting contract that Arizona Town Hall did up in the White Mountains that rural Arizona especially has a major challenge with effective childcare for its regions, which impacts all of the business and the folks who live in the community. I also loved that so many of our panel members presented either some solutions or some ideas, collaboration, ways that you're working together to solve these problems. And then, of course, leaving with so many more questions and so many more, I should say, opportunities on how we can work together to continue to solve these issues. So a couple of things before we close. One, first, I want to thank again the panel, Dr. Linda Elliott-Nelson, our sponsors, and for this program specifically, the Nelson Family Charitable Fund. But also I want to talk about other ways you can continue this conversation. We will have community town halls around the state. They're being scheduled already on workforce development. I know that early childhood education and childcare will be a part of those discussions. It's an opportunity to actually be part of the discussion versus listening to the experts we had today. We also have this Wednesday, our annual meeting where we select topics. You can attend that virtually or in person. Always a fascinating program. And we hope that all of you will continue to stay engaged. You should have a survey in your inbox. We'd love to hear from you what value you get out of these programs, how we can make them better, and how we can continue to serve you. So again, thanks, Linda. Thank you to the panel. Thanks to all of you. And we hope to see you again soon.